A big WWE change has been approved by Vince McMahon. WWE has made an offer to a top international star, and TKO are discussing possible WWE and UFC Supershows. Stay tuned for all the deets. So straight into it, Vince selling shares, Vince doing God knows what's happening, but there is one thing we know that's happened that Vince has approved of within the WWE sphere. This is from the Wrestling Observer newsletter, but the change that Vince has approved is using the ringside area and canvas as advertising space. So here we go. The report states that in the past, Vince was a proponent of a clean ring, meaning no advertising on the mats, the barricades, or around the ring. Obviously, that's changed due to the influence of Nick Khan, as we've seen recently with the Mountain Dew Pitch Black match with Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Love it, Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
With all of that stuff going on. But Vince is no longer thinking this way, and the advertising in and around the ring will be opening up more advertising inventory, and they're very happy that McMahon agreed to it. I imagine Nick Khan just sat there with every episode passing going, or every time it cut to the wide shot going, that was 10 grand? That was 15 grand?
Have you seen the video of Maven where he's like, this is how much money I made on this type of deal in WWE, and this is how much I made in this one. I feel like that's what Nick Khan has done, whereas he's gone, that's money, and he's gone, this is how much we could make, this is how much we're making, and I'm not surprised.
Like, this much, frowny face, this much, look, Vince, new car,
money, new cane. I think it is a smart business decision for WWE, and as much as you don't want advertising shoved down your face. It does make it feel a bit more sporting like.
Well, look at it. Look at UFC, right? Octagon's covered in logos. Look at New Japan. Ring's covered in logos. But I believe that people feel it's more palatable because it's New Japan and a lot of the logos are in Japanese. And you don't really know the brands that are getting thrown in your face, right? Well, if it's WWE and it's going to be Coca-Cola and Snickers all over the ring, it's going to be annoying and it's going to be something to get used to. I get that. But if you think about it, we have had it so good for so bloody long. Like if you look back to the early 90s, during like the new generation era, we had football over here, logos everywhere. There's logos on shirts. You watch NASCAR, they're covered in logos. Everything down to the suit they're wearing is covered in logos. That's the next step, is having wrestler gear just covered in logos.
Brock did it for a while.
Brock did it for a while.
The Jimmy Johns.
It'll probably be a while until we get that with everybody. But to be honest, it makes sense, and it does give it that kind of sporting feel. It means they're going to be making money hand over fist, so why aren't they going to do it now that they've got the sign-off?
Which could improve the product.
Or it could just make certain people
more rich.
Very rich.
Yeah, but
Britain's train system.
I quite like the look of the mat with logos on it. And even, I don't know, I mean, I'm not going to rush out and buy a Coca-Cola because I see it on the canvas.
Can we purchase the rights to the WCW Halloween Havoc logo, start a company, and then crowdfund enough money to just have that in the middle huge for an entire year?
Do that with the AEW.
It'll be so confusing.
Do it with the AEW logo. Chaos.
Yeah, what would happen if Tony was like, I'm just going to buy all your advertising space? Right, well, keeping it with Vince here and touching on what you mentioned with a cane there. According to those in attendance at The Undertaker's One Dead Man show last night, he revealed that Vince McMahon underwent spinal surgery earlier this year, as was rumored and reported. But, of course, because it's Vince, he decided to work out before he healed and suffered a herniated disc. He went on to say that Vince was told that he was going to have to use a walker. And could you imagine being the doctor that's got to tell Vince McMahon, you need a Zimmer frame?
Yeah, you've got to be a Zimmer frame.
We've got your little tennis balls, so it's not going to leave track marks all over your house.
And he was in no way going to sit in a wheelchair.
No, so Vince insisted on a cane. So that's why when we saw the TKO launch, Vince was kind of leaning a lot, and Vince had his cane as he was moving around.
And we've seen him a lot using that out in public with this cane. We saw a photo of him last night that was posted on Twitter. I don't know why he's not
just going for the big pimp hat.
Just really embrace the look.
If he does his normal walk with the cane.
Oh, you look cool.
Yeah.
Well,
get him in a big zoot suit.
Will he look cool?
Paint his face green, turn him into the Mask. He's angry enough and weird enough to be the Mask.
That's how we do advertise the Mask using Vince McMahon.
It can't possibly be worse than Son of the Mask.
Hopefully, obviously it's Vince McMahon, but hopefully he's this herniated disc heals, and because it's that as quite a tough injury at his age.
It is at his age, but as I was going to say, Vince isn't your standard 73 or 74-year-old man, however old he is. Vince is like a super freak. Vince is like when Cena came back in like 6 months from an ACL tear or whatever it was, and it was like, what?
That's not humanly possible.
This isn't humanly possible. So I imagine we'll see Vince McMahon up and about and sprinting and lifting mega weights on Muscle and Fitness again in no time.
Week. Yeah. He's just got scheduled.
Yeah, so fingers crossed that he is doing well, but I think that he doesn't really need any.
No, he'll be fine.
Well, we're going to move over to the world of Hollywood now, but following the end of the SAG-AFTRA strikes, Variety has reported that Captain America Brave New World, which is set to feature Seth Rollins as part of the Serpent Society, has been delayed from its July 26, 2024 release, and instead it's going to be released on February 14th, 2025. The film is set to undergo 5 months of reshoots, with large sequences being cut from the film after it was reportedly tested negatively with audiences.
Yeah, so Seth we saw the set photos, he's going to be part of the Serpent Society. We don't know what his character's name is going to be yet, but he was set to be featured, not in a large role, but enough role that he was involved in it, and it was going to be a big thing. This is the original shoot only took 3 months.
Yes.
So the reshoots are taking much longer, almost double the length of time.
It is quite a substantial amount of time for reshoots, but as you were touching on earlier, that we sort of had the writer's strike come in, and that could have been like a massive effect, because so many things can happen on a film set where you run out of time, and it's like, well, we can take this bit from that scene and we can just do it in this scene tomorrow. We can do it, but you need a writer, you need approval, you need like all this stuff to be able to do all of that, because there's so much red tape.
They could make no edits on the film during the process of the filming because they weren't allowed, the writers were not allowed to do anything. They couldn't even ad-lib.
Were they even allowed to review the rushes?
No, probably not.
So they probably just had to sit there on paper and be like, boom.
That's the editor's job, probably. But either way, Seth Rollins' film debut in the MCU, anyway, is not going to happen until 2025 now.
But, you know, it's still a massive thing. I think it's something we're going to see more and more of with Nick Khan.
Hopefully he doesn't get cut.
I don't think he will.
Hopefully not.
I think that it's just a mega marketing device, isn't it, for all sides? Like, you can advertise it to the WWE audience. People are going to go do a curious watch. I've not really seen an MCU film in ages, but I'll turn up to see Seth.
See Seth Rollins as a sneaky
just
sneaky
to be
snake.
like, whoa, there he is. Look at him.
That's Seth Rollins.
I want to see Blade 3 just to see Triple H and be like, whoa, it's Triple H with metal teeth.
Poor thing.
And he's got a little dog.
He's got a little dog, yeah.
But moving back toward WWE wrestling-wise, according to this week's Observer as well, despite being under contract to Bushiroad until March, WWE has made an offer to a top international prospect in the form of Julia. Now, per the report, she's not decided what to do with her future or what the nature of the offer is, but according to Meltzer, she currently earns more in Japan than what women in NXT earn, but if WWE wanted to, then they could afford an NXT deal, which would make her more money than her current deal. Alongside this, she reportedly has made verbal commitments in Japan well past the date of her contract expiring. Now, she won the New Japan Strong Women's Championship from Willow Nightingale all the way back in like July?
Yeah, something like then. Maybe, around in the summer, certainly.
But that match was originally supposed to be Willow Nightingale versus Mercedes Moné.
So
I believe
Willow won the belt from Mercedes because Mercedes got injured during the match.
But I thought we were going to get the rematch, and then because of the injury, that couldn't go ahead. And then Julia came in, Julia won it, and then it's sort of the next big hyped.
It's the next big hyped feud in women's wrestling. Is
Julia Moné.
Exactly. Moné obviously out injured.
Moné.
We don't know how long she's going to be. Money.
It's a theme.
Is that Mr.
It's like boom, boom.
Oh, it is.
Boom.
I thought you were doing Mr.
Money.
Krabs, where he's going money.
Boom,
You know?
Money.
Well,
money
is going to be. She's out of action for still a little while, and I don't think we'll get this feud before Julia decides what to do with her future, whether that's going to WWE or staying in Japan.
She is a star on the rise, and like a meteoric star at that. So I think that by choosing to possibly stay in Japan, it's not going to harm any interest on the part of WWE. It's possibly just going to drive their interest up further and allow you to bypass NXT if that's something you would rather not do. So being a major star for, Bushiroad may have perks that allow you to, if you do choose to go to America, if you do want to do that, sort of bypass that other system. But at the same time, with the CW, NXT is officially going to be a third brand now. So you've got to imagine contracts are going to start climbing.
Yeah, the other person to look at just now to see how they treat an incoming star from other promotions is Jade Cargill. We've not seen what Jade's going to do quite yet, but how they've treated her as like she's a big deal. They have an opportunity to do that with Julia here. Maybe not to the same level as Jade because she was on American TV and the audience is a bit more familiar with her, but It'll be interesting to see how they treat Julia if she does sign, and I think NXT might be a good spot, as you mentioned, CW.
Well, in terms of business news to close this one out with WWE, well, TKO sort of overall, per the Observer here, once again, TKO have reportedly discussed selling foreign governments on the idea of super weekends, where they would get to host WWE and a UFC pay-per-view in the same building. The idea discussed would see WWE host a show on Friday, likely SmackDown or something of the sort. Then UFC pay-per-view would take place on the Saturday, followed by WWE Raw on Monday. However, the report notes that USA might not keep SmackDown on Friday nights, so if TKO go ahead with the Super Weekend idea, WWE could host a pay-per-view on Friday night, followed by the UFC pay-per-view on a Saturday. And this does not surprise me at all. This sounds like a way to make a lot of boom, boom,
money. A lot of cash just on the table there for them.
Especially if you're selling weekend tickets at a reduced price that it would be to get, like, you just do it like a music festival, right? It's like, hey, do you want 1 day? Do you want 2 days? Or do you want a full weekend? The full weekend works out cheaper overall than buying 3 single tickets to the events.
It'll be really interesting to see how much crossover, if they do one of these super weekends, how much crossover between UFC fans and WWE fans. Obviously, that's going to be their end goal, I imagine, is to have all UFC fans WWE fans and all WWE fans UFC fans.
But the initial phase is going to be spicy, I think.
Yeah, so
because I think if you get enough UFC fans just kind of buying the weekend ticket anyway, and then turning up to say the Friday WWE show, and then just getting really hammered and then hijacking said show, it'd be quite interesting.
Like,
alternatively, they might get into it.
If they come to the UK and we went down to see them, do we go to the pay-per-view on the Saturday, UFC as well, and then the other?
We're all going to have to become like the Observer. We're just going to have to cover
UFC,
everything. Boxing, we'll do the lot.
Why not? We've covered Logan Paul already.
Nobody needs sleep.
He's a boxer.
Yeah.
A tired boxer.
Well, that's it for your second dose of lovely bumper weekend wrestling news. We may be back later on if anything else does break through the day. But in the meantime, keep it with us here this weekend on the channel. We got all of the usual goodness. Check out the podcast. It went up last night, and it is a long podcast featuring Adam, Tom, and Matthew. So, you know, it's going to be just that little bit extra off the wall. But yeah, tie bye.